Asia is home to some of the world's fastest-growing economies and most powerful nations. However, beneath the surface, several countries are teetering on the brink of collapse. From financial crises to political instability, some nations are facing challenges they may never recover from. With skyrocketing debt, failing governments, and rising social unrest, the warning signs of collapse are already evident. But which countries are in the greatest danger? Buckle up as we count down the 10 Asian countries on the verge of total collapse. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more engaging content. Let's get started. Number 10, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has been in crisis for years, and the situation continues to deteriorate. In 2022, the country defaulted on its $83 billion debt, triggering a severe economic spiral. Inflation remains extremely high, fuel shortages persist, and the government is still struggling to repay international loans. Protests have erupted across the nation as citizens demand better living conditions. More than 25% of the population lives below the poverty line, making it difficult for people to afford food and medicine. Although the government has attempted to secure bailouts, the economy remains highly unstable. The once thriving tourism sector has collapsed, foreign investors have pulled back, and businesses continue to shut down. Without significant reforms, Sri Lanka could remain stuck in economic freefall for years. Political corruption has only deepened the crisis, with widespread frustration over government mismanagement leading to violent clashes. International aid has provided temporary relief, but unless drastic changes are made, a complete collapse seems inevitable. Number 9, Pakistan. Pakistan is facing a dangerous combination of economic, political, and security crises. Inflation is soaring, the currency is collapsing, and the country's $125 billion foreign debt has become almost impossible to repay. In early 2025, the Pakistani rupee hit an all-time low, making imports unaffordable and pushing essential goods out of reach for millions. Political instability has worsened the crisis. Corruption scandals, military interference, and violent protests have weakened the government. Meanwhile, terrorist organizations continue to destabilize the region. Public infrastructure is also failing. Power outages, water shortages, and collapsing public services have made daily life unbearable for millions. With over 40% of the population living below the poverty line, desperation grows by the day. Although Pakistan has received loans from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, many experts warn that this only buys time. Without deep reforms, the country could soon face a total financial collapse. Number 8, Myanmar. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the military coup of 2021, plunging the nation into civil war. Resistance forces continue to battle the military government, and the economy has collapsed under sanctions, foreign business withdrawals, and a failing currency. Inflation is soaring, food prices are skyrocketing, and millions are at risk of starvation. Banks are failing, foreign investors are fleeing, and black markets are thriving. Politically, the situation shows no signs of resolution. Rebel groups are gaining ground while the military clings to power. Experts warn that full-scale collapse is increasingly likely as the government loses control over more territory. Without an end to the conflict, Myanmar risks sliding into total anarchy. Number 7, North Korea. North Korea has always been isolated, but in 2025 it is closer than ever to collapse. Poverty, food shortages, and crippling sanctions have left millions in despair. The biggest crisis is food insecurity. Over 40% of the population is malnourished, with shortages reaching their worst levels since the 1990s famine. With borders tightly controlled, foreign aid remains nearly impossible to access. The economy barely functions as government spending prioritizes the military and nuclear weapons program while citizens struggle to survive. Black markets have become the only reliable source of food and goods. Even the regime's grip on power appears fragile. Reports of defections, military purges, and elite dissatisfaction suggest cracks are forming. While North Korea has survived against the odds for decades, its starving population and ruined economy may soon push it past the breaking point. Number 6. Laos. Laos rarely makes international headlines, but beneath the surface, it is facing an economic crisis that could push it toward collapse. Once a rising tourism hub, the nation is now drowning in debt and mismanagement. The largest burden is its $14 billion debt to China, much of it tied to large infrastructure projects like the China-Laos high-speed railway. With limited revenue and a weak economy, repayment has become nearly impossible. Inflation has surged by over 35% in just 1 year, while the national currency has lost more than 50% of its value since 2022. With stagnant wages and scarce jobs, citizens are falling deeper into poverty. Tourism has failed to recover since the pandemic, leaving the economy starved of revenue. Without financial relief or structural reforms, Laos faces the real threat of an economic meltdown. Number 5. Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been in crisis for decades, but since the Taliban takeover in 2021, conditions have worsened dramatically. With foreign aid cut off, the economy has collapsed, leaving over 90% of the population below the poverty line. Inflation has made food and water unaffordable, and desperation has driven many toward black market trade, child labor, and even organ trafficking. Security remains fragile, with armed resistance groups like ISIS-K launching frequent attacks. Extreme laws and public executions have forced many Afghans to flee. With no formal economy, no functioning banking system, and international isolation, Afghanistan is closer to collapse than ever. Without foreign funding, the entire nation risks descending into chaos. Number 4. Bangladesh. Once considered a rising South Asian power, Bangladesh is now struggling with one of its worst financial crises in decades. Inflation has reached record highs, with food prices up 40% in just 1 year. Essentials like rice, cooking oil, and fuel have become luxuries. Foreign reserves are dwindling, and the government struggles to repay international loans. Political instability has fueled protests and violent clashes, raising fears of another military coup. While the garment industry still generates income, it may not be enough to save the economy if inflation and unrest continue. Without intervention, Bangladesh could face one of the worst collapses in South Asian history. Number 3. Lebanon. Lebanon is already considered a failed state, and by 2025 the situation has only deteriorated. Hyperinflation, power shortages, and government paralysis have made life unbearable. The Lebanese pound has lost over 95% of its value since 2019, and banks have frozen citizens' savings, forcing people to withdraw at massive losses. Basic services have collapsed. Electricity is available only for a few hours a day, hospitals are running out of medicine, and food costs have quadrupled. Political corruption remains rampant. The government is essentially non-functional, incapable of reforms or securing foreign aid. Unless drastic measures are taken, Lebanon could face a complete state collapse, triggering a regional humanitarian disaster. Number 2. Syria. After more than a decade of civil war, Syria remains in ruins. The economy has collapsed, the Syrian pound has plummeted, and inflation has made survival nearly impossible. Over 70% of the population relies on humanitarian aid to survive. Violence continues as terrorist groups, rebel factions, and foreign militaries fight for control. Bombings, airstrikes, and kidnappings remain daily threats. Sanctions prevent reconstruction, while corruption ensures that wealth remains in the hands of elites. Without major diplomatic breakthroughs, Syria could remain a failed state for generations. Number 1. Yemen. At the top of the list is Yemen, the most fragile country in Asia. After nearly a decade of war, the nation faces one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Famine is the most urgent issue. More than 17 million Yemenis face extreme hunger, and without urgent aid, millions could die. The economy has collapsed, the currency is worthless, and banks no longer function. The conflict between the Saudi-backed government and Houthi rebels continues with airstrikes, drone attacks, and battles devastating the population. With no functioning government, no stable economy, and one of the worst crises in modern history, Yemen is already in collapse. 5 practical tips if you live in a country at risk of collapse. Stay informed. Follow political and economic developments closely to spot early warning signs. Have an exit strategy, keep travel documents, emergency funds, and backup destinations ready. Diversify your finances, use foreign banks, cryptocurrencies, or international assets to safeguard wealth. Stock essential supplies. Food, water, medicine, and emergency gear can be life-saving during crises. Build strong networks. Friends, family, and international contacts can provide crucial support. From economic meltdowns to full-scale wars, these countries are facing some of the worst crises in modern history. If conditions do not improve, some may never recover. What do you think? Can any of these nations turn things around, or is collapse inevitable? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore our channel for more insights into global events. Thank you for watching.